Hey guys, it's Miss Katrisa. Did you know that today is World Read Aloud Day? I mean, who knew that was a day, right? Well, based on the millions of dollars spent each year in audiobooks, we're never too old to be read aloud to. So sit back and listen as I've chosen a book I love, and I want to read a part of it to you. We have it in the library, so feel free to come and check it out. Beautiful Creatures by Kami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. I stepped up to the door of Ravenwood, my hand tightened around the glossy blue folder, my excuse for showing up at Lena's house uninvited. I was dropping by to give her an English assignment she'd missed today. Well, that's what I planned to say anyway. It had sounded convincing, in my head, when I was standing on my own porch. But now that I was on the porch at Ravenwood, I wasn't so sure. I wasn't usually the kind of guy who would do something like this. But it was obvious there was no way Lena was ever going to invite me over on her own, and I had a feeling her uncle could help us, that he might know something. Or maybe the other thing, I wanted to see her. I'd been at school all day, and it had been a dull day at Jackson without Hurricane Lena, and I was starting to wonder how I ever got through 8 class periods without the trouble she caused me, without all the trouble she made me want to cause myself. I could see light flooding from the vine-covered windows. I heard the sounds of music in the background. Old Savannah songs from the Georgian songwriter my mom had loved. In the cool, cool, cool of the evening. I heard barking from the other side of the door before I even knocked, and within seconds, the door swung open. Lena was standing there in her bare feet, and she looked different. Dressed up in a black dress with little birds embroidered on it, like she was going out to have dinner at a fancy restaurant. I looked more like I was headed to the Darkine in my Holy Atari t-shirt and jeans. She stepped out onto the veranda, pulling the door shut behind her. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" I held up the folder lamely. "I brought your homework?" "I can't believe you just showed up here. I told you my uncle doesn't like strangers." She was already pushing me down the stairs. "You have to go now." "I just thought we could talk to him." Behind us, I heard the awkward clearing of a throat. I looked up to see Macon Ravenwood's dog, and beyond him, Macon Ravenwood himself. I tried not to look too surprised, but I'm pretty sure it gave me away when I almost jumped out of my skin. Well, that's one I don't hear often, and I do hate to disappoint, as I am nothing if not a Southern gentleman. He spoke in a measured Southern drawl, but with perfect enunciation. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Mr. Waite." I couldn't believe I was standing in front of him, the mysterious Macon Ravenwood. Only, I really had been expecting Boo Radley, some guy trudging around the house in overalls mumbling in some kind of non-syllabic language like a Neanderthal, maybe even drooling a bit around the edges of his mouth. This was no Boo Radley. This was more of an Atticus Finch. Macon Ravenwood was dressed impeccably, as if it was, 1942. His crisp white dress shirt was fastened with old-fashioned silver studs instead of buttons. His black dinner jacket was spotless, perfectly creased. His eyes were dark and gleaming. They looked almost black. They were clouded over, tinted like the glass of the Hearst windows that Lena drove around town. There was no seeing in those eyes, no reflection. They stood out from his pale face, which was white as snow, white as marble, white as, well, as you'd expect from the town shut-in. His hair was salt and pepper gray near his face, as black as Lena's on top. He could have been some kind of American movie star from before they invented Technicolor, or maybe royalty from some small country no one had ever heard of around here. But Macon Ravenwood was from these parts. That was the confusing thing. Old Man Ravenwood was the boogeyman of Gatlin, a story I'd heard since kindergarten, only now he seemed like he belonged here less than I did.